Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation, this is Pope Gravy. Please put your hands together for Pastor Baby.
You need Jesus. Go back to church. Bitch.
Hey guys, welcome back. We have yet another video about seal twisting. This time it's going to be specifically for the TBC pre-patch for Paladin. There's a few things that are going to be changing with the way that our class works and rotations and spell coefficients and all that fun stuff. So I'm just throwing this out because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of Paladins that are leveling and don't know what to do and are probably scrambling and only have you know, regular TBC stuff to worry about. So in this video I'm just gonna kind of set you guys up for success with going through dungeon content, raid content, leveling up, and just kind of having a general idea of what type of abilities you want, when you want them, things like that. And first thing that is up on the list is going to be our talents. And the first talent that I want to highlight is going to be in the retribution tree, and that's going to be Seal of Command. Seal of Command is what we found to be primarily one of our best threat generators when seal twisted with Seal of Righteousness. They both have a 0.4 seal twisting window, so they both can go back and forth, and if you utilize the method of pro judging, then you can actually maintain a seal every time that you judge, so you're just flipping your seals back and forth, saves you mana, saves you globals, and it produces a lot of threat for prop paladin. So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to show off some of the threat and how it stacks up the twisting to buff spam, show you guys a few macros, go over the rotation a little bit, and give you guys a swing timer option as well, and then kind of top it off with just a couple of weapons I just want you guys to kind of keep an eye out for as you're going to be leveling your Blood Elves or Draenei, you know, in this pre-patch. So starting off with the talents, the big two talents that I want to talk about are going to be Seal of Command, which is kind of become the backbone of our rotation, and Reckoning. Reckoning is going to be getting, it's going to be changing from Classic. Before, whenever we were critically struck, we would stack up and accumulate auto attacks, stacking up to 5. That if we used a stop attack macro, we could stack these up to 5, and then once we started our attack again, typically macroed with our seals, it would then unleash all of these seals at the same time and also seal twist them, which would allow us to do insane amounts of bursts, but also dramatically increase the chance for Seal of Command to activate because we were rolling the dice so many times in one block, which helped a lot with us typically having slower weapons than our damage dealing counterpart, which was the Retribution Paladin. So now with TBC, Reckoning is instead going to be a modifier or a buff that has a chance to activate anytime that we take damage. So this is going to be from melee attacks and spells, and if we invest 5 talent points, it can bump this up to 10%, which means that we'll be having a very high uptime in this in boss fights, especially. Sometimes we'll even have 50% uptime, potentially more depending on how many monsters you're fighting. What makes this so important for prop paladin is that, once again, with our faster weapons that we use, we're going to be stacking up the chance to activate our Seal of Command, and it's going to activate a lot more consistently for us. This, coupled with Seal of Command in TBC, is also whenever Seal of Command activates on a seal twist, it will give Seal of Righteousness an extra hit. So previously you would have your auto attack, your Seal of Command would go off, and your Seal of Righteousness would go off. Now it's going to be auto attack, Seal of Command, Seal of Righteousness, and then an additional Seal of Righteousness. So we're going to be doing a lot of damage very, very often, and we're going to have a very high uptime of just constantly getting Seal of Command to go off, and that's going to be like our biggest burst of threat when acquiring different targets or building threat in general. And this is actually going to help a ton for the Paladin when we are off tanking. So this is going to be used on fights like Blood Boil. This is going to be really handy for fights like Nightbane. When he lands down, we'll be able to seal twist into him, pro judge it, get an exorcism off, and just build a lot of burst threat in situations where we don't have a lot of time to accumulate it with our Holy Shield. And this is actually going to serve as a really nice transition period to actually talk about Holy Shield again. So Holy Shield is also going to be a new ability that jumps into our rotation. Previously in Classic, we didn't have enough talent points to facilitate this talent as well as use Seal of Command and have Consecrate at the same time. It was kind of just a game of having to pick and choose what kind of tools we wanted, but Consecrate was our biggest niche, and Seal Twisting was a very powerful tool that just helped our viability in a lot of different situations. So now we're going to be adding Holy Shield to the rotation, and for this talent, I only recommend that you guys take the first talent point in it, where you only have 4 blocks in a 10-second window. And the reason I recommend that is so that you guys can get familiar and used to the button being around and get used to having it be a part of your rotation, as well as Seal Twisting. But I don't feel that it is going to be powerful enough right now in the pre-patch for us to really excel with that style of play yet. Obviously, once we move into TBC and things start to hit harder, having those additional blocks are going to be something that we're going to get as we start to level up through TBC. But for now, I highly recommend that we just take the 1 point in Holy Shield. With us only being level 60, that's going to allow us to take our Seal of Command talent, as well as the Holy Shield talents, that we have our full rotation available, as Consecrate is now going to be a baseline ability. But while we are in lower gear and trying to get geared, I'm going to actually recommend the improved Seal of Righteousness talent, which has also gotten better in TBC pre-patch, where now it is going to give you 15% more damage, including your spell power scaling, where previously it was just 15% increase of the base damage and the base damage of the judgment. We do still have flexibility when it comes to our talents, but again, the 2 big things that I'm recommending is just at least 31 points in the prot tree and at least 11 points in the Retribution tree for Seal of Command and for Holy Shield. After that point, we have 9 points that can kind of go anywhere. So again, if you want to throw them towards something like Avenger Shield, you can absolutely do that. Come pre-patch, once we hit level 60, once you hit level 60 on your character, you're going to have 51 talent points available all the same. And you do have a little bit of flexibility with the talents that you go. I'm personally recommending to you guys that you go with the 9-31-11 build. This is going to be 5 of 5 in Divine Intellect, followed by 4 of 5 in Improved Seal of Righteousness. Again, Righteousness is going to be scaling with our spell power now. It's a much better talent than it was in Classic. And whenever you Seal Twist and get that Seal Twist off, you're going to get an additional hit. So having Seal of Righteousness, doing as much damage as it can, allows you to coast more often, so that you can actually conserve and regenerate more mana in between the trash packs when you're doing dungeons. It's overall just going to be a large portion of your damage, especially when Reckoning's in play and you're getting those double hits all the time. And then we're going to move into the prot tree, where we're going to be taking 5 of 5 Redoubt. Redoubt previously was the absolute backbone of Classic. Whenever you were critically struck, it would give you 5 blocks, 30% block chance, and it gave us a lot of defensiveness and actually helped us stay away from the defense stat, which gave us a good stat budget to work in spell power and int and stamina and other vital skills, even spell hit. So we're still going to be taking Redoubt. That's going to give us 30% avoidance through block, which is really good, helps stave off critical hits, and it's going to activate more often, because now it activates on a 10% chance anytime that you're struck by a physical or spell attack. Next is Precision. Now we're getting 3% melee weapon hit as well as 3% spell hit. Against trash, 5% hit is going to be our hit cap, so having 3% of that already means that if you don't want your Consecrate to miss against trash, you just need 2% more spell hit, which for a lot of gear budgets is going to work out really well, especially if you get lucky and you get a ring from ZG or some other item like that. And then you have a bit of a choice in this one. I always go with 2 points in Guardian's favor. This helps in dungeons, having bop sooner, having freedom last longer, especially with freedom having a longer cooldown now. So being able to being able to shrug off slow effects that may have like a burn effect or other things like that would also be very beneficial. But if you really care, you can just put them in toughness. Again, toughness is going to be our main dump stat when going up the prot tree, just because the physical damage reduction is the best way to go. And then once we advance, we're going to be taking Blessing of Kings. Blessing of Kings is really good. And while we're in Classic, it may actually be one of our best abilities still to generate threat. In Classic, we found that it was ideal to Seal Twist, and while your weapon was on cooldown and you were recouping for the next swing, we would spin a greater blessing on classes that had the most players. So each player that we used Blessing of Kings on, for example, would give 114 threat. 10 players, that's 1,140 threat. And so we were able to get a lot of threat off while doing our twists, and that just kept us at a very high and efficient mana budget throughout a fight. So Blessing of Kings, if you want it in your toolkit, absolutely take it. Righteous Fury is going to be the next thing that we pick up, as now it's going to have damage reduction on top, and then we're going to put a point in Anticipation. In order to advance the tree again, we're going to max out Anticipation, as defense is not a critical skill for Classic. We don't need it. We, again, are going to have Readout, which is going to stave off critical strikes, and it's going to be activating more often. And we're also going to have Holy Shield, which is going to give us more block chance that's in our control to help stave off those crits. The defense is just going to help us stave off crits while we're leveling, when we're dealing with mobs and dungeons with monsters that are going to be closer to our level, and as well it's going to give us a good amount of defense. Once we advance forward, we're going to be taking 5 of 5 Reckoning and 1 in Blessing of Sanctuary. The Reckoning, again, going to be a great talent. If you want to take 4 of 5 and only have the 8%, that's absolutely worth it. Keep in mind as well, you may have also heard in TBC that there was an issue with parry haste and bosses. All of the raids are going to be coming out in their nerfed versions, where a lot of the bosses and their damage is going to be significantly reduced. Even if Reckoning was an issue, which your healers could absolutely always mitigate, it's even less so going to be the case. Things don't hurt that bad in Classic, and I imagine it will be very much the same in TBC, as again, everything is going to be nerfed. So Reckoning is going to be fantastic for dealing a ton of damage and having really, really consistent threat. Blessing of Sanctuary, I still don't think is a fantastic talent, as if you have enough paladins, it is a fantastic one to add on top of everything. But again, it's just damage reduction to me, and that's all I look at it as. It's a fantastic amount of damage reduction, as it also works against spells. But again, if you're looking for it to give you a ton of damage or threat, this just isn't the talent that's going to be able to do that. Cool. So now moving on to that, I take 4 of 5 one-handed specialization, and then I'm going to finish off the prot tree with the last point in Holy Shield. This one, again, is also a preference. If you want to have the 6% stamina from Sacred Duty, absolutely go for it. But one-hand specialization has changed now, where instead of giving us up to 10% of our seal damage, now it's just going to give us a 4% flat damage increase across the board. So now Consecrate will be affected by this, which was a problem before in Classic, as Vengeance affected everything. Now one-handed specialization is going to be doing the same, which brings us over to the Retribution tree to finish out. 5 of 5 Benediction, save as much mana as you can. Also, if we're taking the Divine Intellect, that's going to help stretch out that mana even further. That's going to help afford Consecrates, Blessing of Kings, Seal Twists, other things like that. Improved Judgment, this is going to allow us to pro-judge more often, which again is our highest threat global, which is a Seal Twist that is delayed so that you can then judge afterwards and throw the expiring seal at the target. And then we're going to follow that by 3 in Deflection, which is going to allow us to spend our last level 60 point on Seal of Command. There is no particular order that you need to take these talents, but I highly recommend, whether you are doing Retribution or whether you're tanking or going to be doing some combination of both, take Seal of Command as soon as possible. Get this talent. Consecrate is going to be given to us at the same time as we would have had our 11th talent point. Grab Seal of Command, start seal twisting, get accustomed with it, get used to it, and then once you do that, grab Readout 5 of 5, and then get our Precision talent, and then move your way up to Improved Righteous Fury. Once you have Improved Righteous Fury and you have Seal of Command, you can do whatever you want with your talent points. So again, that's going to be the most ideal talent setup for the pre-patch. Again, once we start leveling to 61 and 70, you're going to have 10 extra points that you can move around and kind of figure out what build and playstyle works for you. But seal twisting is going to be a very powerful addition to our toolkit if you're willing to put in the practice and utilize it. But keep in mind, you're also not going to be super locked into one specific build, as seal twisting functions on any level as long as you have Seal of Command. And thankfully, it's only an 11 talent point investment in the Retribution tree, which almost every build does passively anyway. So now we're going to be moving on into the rotation. At the core of it, it's just going to be getting our Seal Twist and Pro Judges off, very similar to a Retribution Paladin. But our filler globals are going to be a little different, as we're not going to have Crusader Strike available to us. Instead, we're going to be filling these globals with our Holy Shield, our Consecrate, our Exorcism, and potentially buff spam depending on the encounter type. If you need any sort of high threat at a distance, buff threat's going to be the best way to do that, as when you are in a raid and you spin that threat, each mob in the encounter is going to have the threat split amongst them. This is going to be really helpful in SSC when dealing with the Murlocs, where you have to wrangle them and the healers are generating threat as they run down through the tunnels. Buff threat can potentially help with that. But Consecrate, when dealing with multiple enemies, as buff threat splits, may jump up in the priority order of our abilities. Overall, they're just going to kind of overlap on each other when it comes to priorities, as Prot Paladin, very similar to Retribution Paladin, is very GCD starved, where we have a bunch of abilities that we want to use all at once, but they're all on the GCD. So it turns our rotation into a priority based one, where you want to use them depending on the situation and depending on what you need. For example, the twist is always going to have the highest priority when it comes to our threat, but Holy Shield is going to share that priority when it comes to our defense, as we need to keep our blocks up. So you're going to have to juggle that. We always want to maintain our Seal Twist and try and maintain that priority on them, as it is our highest threat global. And on top of that, we're going to be having our Reckoning going off, which is going to be, again, massively increasing the proc chance of Seal of Command, as I mentioned earlier. And right here, I have a chart where you can kind of see that. And you'll see that Reckoning, for the most part, will massively increase the chance of Seal of Command to go off. But it also helps mitigate the issue of weapon speed when it comes to Seal of Command's chance to go off. Seal of Command has an internal cooldown of 1 second. That means that no matter how many times that you hit a target in one auto attack block, you can only get one Seal of Command to activate. When Seal of Command activates in a TBC, Seal of Righteousness, if Seal Twisted with it, and Seal of Blood will also get an additional hit. So by Seal Twisting, ideally, we're trying to get our weapon swing to line up with our seals, so that we can then hopefully get a Seal of Command proc, which will be additional damage that can also crit. If this damage crits, it also has a melee. It's on the melee crit table, meaning that it'll do double damage instead of for spells, which is only 1.5. So we're going to get double damage on Seal of Command, which then can give us our consistent damage of Seal of Righteousness, which will always be there, which is help mitigated by, again, Seal of Command scales with spell power. Seal of Righteousness also scales with spell power. And once we have Reckoning up, you can see that our Seal of Command activation chance starts to become equal to, and in most cases exceed, the chance for a Retribution Paladin to get Seal of Command to activate using the slowest weapons in the game. So even if you're using a 2-second swing speed, your chance to activate Seal of Command jumps up to almost 42%, which is very close to that of like a 3.5 weapon speed. I personally, right now in Classic, I'm using my 2.9 sword, which is the PvP weapon. And when I have Reckoning active, that jumps up almost to a 57% chance, which is a massive chance to have Seal of Command go off. And again, Reckoning is going to be active for the next 4 hits and can be activated while it's already active, as it's a 10% dice roll every single time that you're hit. Additionally, in TBC, we're going to be having Shamans. Shamans are going to be leveling, and with Shamans comes Wind Fury totems. Wind Fury is going to be a buff that every time that you swing and hit your weapon, you're going to have a 20% chance to get an additional strike on top of Reckoning, which again is going to jump into that calculator to give us Seal of Command, which is going to give us that double righteousness. As you can see, we're going to have Parry Haste and we're going to have haste as a stat itself with things like the Dragon Spine trophy, additional trinkets, and different things like that. Spell haste will also increase our GCD. So if you're having a hard time seal twisting, spell haste will actually still increase our GCD when we activate things like our seals, our exorcism, our consecrate, and holy shield, but it won't speed up your weapon speed. So not saying that you need to go for that stat, but it is something to consider if it does fall into your lap. For example, the Quagmire's Eye from one of the Serpent Shrine dungeons, which can proc and give us spell power. That potentially can be used to actually boost the threat per second that we receive, both from being able to fit our seal twist into our swing time, but also even potentially throw out more greater blessings if that's something that's beneficial, depending on the content that you're doing. Now that we have a general idea of what the twist looks like, I want to show you guys some data that I pulled from Classic, comparing the twist to the well-known buff spam method that was primarily used in Classic. The main way that I compared this test in this video was by having a character with no gear on, so no spell power of any kind, and I just had my 2.9 PvP weapon, and then I would simply do a pro twist, pro judge onto a target, and I would add together the amount of threat from the Seal of Righteousness hit, the Judgment, and the Seal of Command hit, and then add on the Seal threat from that, because every time that you activate your seal, which for us will now primarily be when we are seal twisting, since you are buffing your character, you'll generate threat that is equal to your level when you learn the skill, and then multiplied by our Righteous Fury, so which is a 1.9 modifier. So then we would add all of these together and then compare it to how many players I would have to buff with the buff spam method in order to produce the same threat. And I did it with no gear, and then I did it with my phase 3 BIS gear that I had. And when I was comparing the buff spam method to being geared, it was exceeding the amount of threat that was in most cases even possible in a raid, getting anywhere up to buffing 19 people. And this was without factoring in critical strikes, as Seal of Command can again do double damage. And if I were to judge command, that also could do double damage. I was just using kind of the median data that I was given. But what we also found was that even without any gear, the twist was still able to compete with buff spam in a lot of the situations that you would have in an average comp. It was working anywhere from between 7 to 9 players, but also when you got a critical strike, it would jump up somewhere to like 16 players of buffing. So what we're able to pull from that is that the twist is extremely powerful, and getting this additional Seal of Righteousness hit, as well as having higher level versions of the spells, we're going to be generating a lot of threat. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the macros that I use that I think will actually be pretty helpful for moving into the pre-patch as well as TBC itself. Some of these aren't as vital as they used to be, and the most notorious one being the stop attack macro. This was used when we wanted to build stacks with the old Reckoning. If you had your auto attack active and you were using the old style of Reckoning, it would just instantly finish the current attack that you had, no matter where you were in the swing timer. So you could get anywhere from a full swing to a fifth of a swing, or even half of a swing would just be instantly finished. And in most cases, it wasn't beneficial, because if you didn't have a seal active or were looking to get a seal twist, you would end up missing your window, or your window would be too fast, or maybe you just judged and now you just did an auto attack into the boss and had no seal active at all. So by turning off our auto attack in between our swings, this would actually allow Old Reckoning to accumulate charges in swings, and this would stack up to 5 times. And they would last indefinitely as well. So typically in a raid, what I would do, for example, if I was in Molten Core with the M Trash, or working on the dogs, moving up to Magmadar, or anything like that, I would build sufficient threat, and then I would coast by turning off my auto attack and just letting mobs hit me, and just using Consecrate or Exorcism or Dynamite to maintain my threat lead, and build up those attacks, so that once I got into the boss, I would do something called a Wreck Bomb, where then I could take all of those stacked attacks and seal twist them, and they would all benefit from that same block of damage, which would almost guarantee me getting a Seal of Command proc, which would give me a Seal of Righteousness hit for each auto attack in there, as well as these being able to crit and just give me a lot of front-loaded damage that Paladin typically wasn't able to do on its own. The next macro that worked for our twisting that was also very essential was the start attack macro. So I would have this baked into my seals, for example, where I would seal twist. I would then hit my stop attack macro, which would be on a different button, which for me is my number 1. And then your swing timer will continue to progress. Even if you get parried or, the natural countdown, this would still affect your swing time and you would still move it up and see it accordingly on your swing timer. And then once the weapon swing was back in the range that I wanted for seal twisting, when I activated my seal in order to twist, it would also turn on my auto attack using Reckoning, but also twist again. Once that completed, I would then turn off my auto attack again so that any crits that occurred to my character would not be wasted, and they would accumulate until the next twist was ready to just massively increase the chance of getting Seal of Command to go off. The reason that I am showing it to you guys for the pre-patch is that I do feel that it's going to be very useful, especially for a lot of players that are still trying to learn how to seal twist and don't want to be frustrated by feeling like they have too fast of a weapon or that they need to play absolutely perfect in order to make this work. So what you can do, and many times I've done this, where I will get off a seal twist, I will then use a filler global such as Consecrate or Buff Spam, but then I'll get a parry haste immediately after or at the same time, and my weapon swing will dramatically jump up to the front. I will then hit my stop attack macro, as I don't want to swing because I'm on the GCD and I can't twist it, and then I'll just delay it for a second and then reactivate that twist by activating my seal and getting it proper. I think this will be helpful for a lot of players who are still trying to get used to everything but don't want to feel like they need to play as fast as possible, especially if you're in trash and you're trying to tab through to a target to get to the right guy in order to get threat on him. You don't want your weapons just constantly going off and just wasting mana trying to seal twist and tab to the correct guy. If you have a threat lead, you can just calmly get to the guy, maybe even accumulate some mana in that time, and then blast him with a seal twist as you need. Another thing that I found very useful when using my stop attack macro, at least for old Reckoning where the stacks would accumulate and once they came out they would go, is that I would actually use it to line up Seal of Command judges or pro twists with my Hammer of Justice. So I would stun a target. If I was walking up to him and I knew that I was going to be doing this combo, typically I would already have a max rank Seal of Command ready. But there's been times where I've had to do it retroactively. Maybe I messed up and accidentally judged the wrong seal and I didn't pro judge and I need to get it back up. Then I would just put on a max rank Seal of Command, which would have no start attack macro in it, which would be a separate keybind, so that I could then have that and not turn on my auto attack and kind of ruin it. And then I would seal twist onto the target and pro judge my expiring Seal of Command, which would then throw that into the target, giving it double damage because they're stunned, and then potentially critting and giving me double damage again. All right, as we start to wind down, guys, I know I've talked a lot about seal twisting and the benefits of it and timing it and lining it up and doing all of these things. Well, I recently added my own swing timer. I've made that available. I do still highly recommend Surveillance swing timer, which is something that he shared for Season of Discovery, which is where I learned about pro judging. So again, if you want to check out that guide, I believe the timestamp is 1225 on his seal twisting guide, which is very, very good, very, very concise, and explains twisting and pro judging very, very well and just kind of how it works. But I do have my own sweet seal twist timer, which I'll have in the description. Mine is set up very much the same. I believe both of ours is color coded, and they also have the extra line for the pro judge, which is where you want to delay your seal twist in the 0.4 second window so that your expiring seal will just overlap after the auto attack so that you can then judge it and hit the target with your expiring seal. This will allow you to keep the one that you've just twisted into and discard the one that you've twisted out of. It's just the most efficient way to do it. It's going to save you global. It's going to save you mana so that you don't have to judge and then reapply your seal for 1.5 seconds. Instead, that could be another global. That could be reapplying your Holy Shield that's expiring. That could be reapplying your Consecrate, or potentially hitting an Exorcism on a target that's far away. My swing timer for seal twisting also has a very fun, like Dance Dance Revolution kind of feedback system to it. It's not perfect, but if you seal twist within a certain range, it'll give you different feedbacks. If you're too early, it'll ping red and let you know that you twisted too early and you won't be getting that twist. If it was kind of okay, just a regular seal twist, it'll give you like a yellow ping and then a green ping if you are kind of landing in that perfect space to be able to pro judge. And then if you do successfully do a pro judge, which is where you have your twist delayed, it auto attack occurs, you get the damage of both of your seals, and then you judge that seal, you're then going to get a rainbow pro twist feedback that's going to let you know that you did that. So that's going to be in the description if you're interested in it. Again, I highly recommend Surveillance Video. If you want to get a bit more of a in-depth breakdown as to what the Pro Twist and Pro Judge is, then I absolutely recommend that you check that out. When it comes to seal twisting and your swing timer as well, if you are playing if you have high latency or high ping, where, for example, if I play on a European server, I'm going to be at 200, 300 ping. You can compensate for this. You are still able to seal twist if you are, again, still willing to put in the practice and things like that. So all you need to do is, if you have a consistent ping, just go into the settings. For example, my swing timer, it's a weak aura, and you can see like the little tick marks in the display. Just add your ping, your average ping to that, which will then delay that so that you can then seal twist on those markers, which will then compensate so that you can still seal twist at the proper time in game. So if you're playing on EU on an NA server or vice versa, maybe you're playing on a private server if you're seeing this, I don't know, you can still adjust your swing timer to compensate for the delay so that you can still take advantage of a lot of the benefits that seal twisting is going to offer you. Okay, so a few closing thoughts as we're winding down to the end of the video here. The main things that I wanted to kind of touch on is that as you're going to be leveling in the pre-patch, there's a few things that would be beneficial to know, especially if this is your first paladin. And the big one is that there is not a lot of spell power gear available to you as you're leveling. I personally, when I level paladins, would either take tailoring in order to make the bind on pickup cloth robe, and then I would just adorn myself in as much plate armor with stamina and agility. Again, you don't have to do that. It would be stamina, agility, and intellect, and I'd kind of balance that as I need it. But you don't have to do that. The main thing I want to point out is that strength is actually a really good stat when starting out with a paladin, as there's not a lot of holy damage that you have available. You have Seal of Righteousness, and you still have to level for a bit to get Seal of Command, and even once you have it, your auto attack is going to be the majority of your damage for a good while until you start to get into like the 30s and a little bit higher, where you start to get a little drip fed with some of the items like the Dreamweave, and different things like that, where again you can have spell power item and kind of stack on stamina and stuff to compensate for that. Strength is actually a pretty good stat for increasing your strength at early levels, just to get your threat a little higher. Don't be afraid to throw on some strength gear if it's coming your way. And the next thing is that once you start getting into the 40 bracket for Maraudon, the sword that I highly recommend, I think is a fantastic sword that will lead you a good while until you can start getting some better pre-grade to get you somewhere, is the Thrash Blade. The Thrash Blade is a 2.7 weapon, which means that Seal of Command on a normal hit is going to be somewhere in the 32% chance to proc, and then once you have that Reckoning, it's going to be jumping up to like a 54% chance, and it has a 10% chance to activate normally with your seals, And so when you're seal twisting, that can also dramatically increase it, which is going to give you additional hits. So the sword itself can help Seal of Command go off more, which is going to be very consistent for you. And then Reckoning can also help the sword go off more, help Seal of Command go off more. Just a really, really good weapon that doesn't have stats on it, but the slower swing speed and the ability to get the extra hit are probably going to help a lot when it comes to early twisting or just having a really consistent sword when you just kind of want to burst somebody. But the last thing I want to close out with is weapon speed. Ideally, in a perfect world, we want the slowest one-hander possible. While this is not going to be possible, as weapons can range anywhere from a 1.5 speed to a 3.0 speed. I believe that's the slowest one-hander that we can get. Reckoning is going to, again, dramatically increase the chance of our Seal of Command to go off. But the slower the weapon is, the bigger window that you have for more filler globals, and the more time that you have for your seals are just going to hit harder. So most importantly, you want weapon speed. Followed by that, if you can get spell power and a slow weapon, that's going to be like the most perfect thing that you can get. Weapon damage is not as important compared to spell power, but weapon speed is more important compared to spell power. So it's going to be weapon speed, spell power, weapon damage, and then whatever stats are on there. So again, I have other little charts, I believe in my TBC video that can help you guys kind of learn different stuff that you're looking for, because everyone's preferences are going to be different when it comes to weapons. But ideally, if you can get a slow weapon that has spell power on it, that's going to be an amazing combo for you. But most spell swords are going to be slow and they're going to have low base damage. So if you end up needing to use a slow weapon that doesn't have spell power on it, it's still going to be fantastic for your threat. So just keep that in mind. Spell power is not the end all be all when it comes to just our threat production. Even in AoE, when we activate those seals again, it's going to generate a little bit of threat that spreads among all targets. So it still gives us some AoE threat. It's not going to be as much as Consecrate, but again, it's going to definitely help mitigate that difference. But again, this has been my time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, throw them down. I will try to get to them as much as I can, and I'm sure that I will be leveling like a madman come pre-patch in the next few days. Again, I wish you guys the best of luck with your Paladin journey, and I highly, highly recommend seal twisting. I cannot overstate enough how powerful it is for our rotation and how important it's going to be for you to be able to learn this skill and kind of get used to it. It's got a rhythm to it. Once you kind of hit that rhythm and you start getting pro judging down, the game gets so much easier from how much threat you can just produce consistently on the fly. Seal twisting dramatically changes prop Paladin, and you go from, hey, wait 3 seconds for Consecrate to tick, to this guy is mine now. So again, enjoy the Wind Fury, enjoy the Reckoning. This has been me. Take care, guys. Peace.